All right, this lab is about the density of water. Seems simple, but it's a lot of procedures that you should know. Okay, here is the material station. The directions are in page protectors, but they're on top on the table behind. All the other materials are here. You can see beakers. So just if I point to these, okay, we can see beakers, we can see graduated cylinders, we can see dropper pipettes, and we can see this type of balance and this type of balance. And again, these direction sheets are up here on the table behind. Okay, the graduated cylinder, here's a sample that I'm using for this lab because you're going to use one a little different, but I want you to see the process, okay? First, you're going to determine a quarter of the total volume and then determine a half of the total volume. So you can see up here, the graduated cylinder I picked has 50 milliliters max. Okay, so to find a quarter of the total volume, I'm going to do 50 divided by 4. And I'm going to write that on my lab sheet. And to determine half of the total volume, I'm going to do 50 divided by 2 and record that on my lab sheet. And here is where it should be recorded. So remember, what was the maximum volume? That is 50. And here, this is where on this sheet, because I switched the numbers around and forgot to switch these, that makes that correct. Okay, so then to do a quarter, you did divided by 4, and a half divided by 2. Okay. Now you prepare the balance. So you can see in these gifts here, you're going to remove the cover or covers. The silver one has 2 covers. The smaller one only has 1. You're going to turn it on, okay? And then you're going to press tare. And now it should read 0.00. Then you are going to take your empty graduated cylinder and record the mass. Now, if you are absent, you are going to use this data. If you are present in lab, then you are going to do your own data, okay? That gets recorded in the table right there, okay? Now you're going to fill the graduated cylinder to a quarter of the volume. Remember, we calculated that already. Now, it doesn't have to be super exact, but it's going to be close to that. But again, it doesn't have to be exact. And now you are going to record the volume. So over here, remember, when I'm looking at the volume, there's going to be a meniscus, and I'm recording right here from the bottom of the meniscus. And if you read the directions, you know that my measurement, let's just pretend it's halfway between 10 and 11, it would be 10.5. My measurement needs a point and a decimal. So if here is 11 and here is 10 and my meniscus looked like this, I could estimate that as 10.5, halfway between, okay? And I'm going to record that in the table. Now I'm going to measure the mass of the graduated cylinder and that quarter of the volume of the water. Now, if you were absent and you are recovering minutes, this is what you need to record. And there is where you need to record it. Now I'm going to fill the graduated cylinder to half of the volume. Remember, I calculated that earlier. Again, it doesn't need to be exact. It's just going to be close. Then I'm going to record the volume. Remembering what I said before, I'm looking for whatever lines are on the graduated cylinder. So if I have a line for 11 and a line for 10, and I'm going to look for the meniscus. So let's just say my meniscus comes like this. Okay. It's not on 11, but it's pretty close. So I might say that is 10.8. Okay, so I need a decimal. Okay. And I'm going to record that right there in the table. Then I am going to measure the mass of the graduated cylinder and that volume of water. Okay, if you are absent and recovering lab minutes, this is the number you are going to record. Okay, and I'm going to put it in the table right there. Okay. Now, in lab, you're going to empty the graduated cylinder, empty the beaker, turn off the balance, replace the covers. Okay, remember the silver one has 2 covers, the smaller one has 1. Return all of your materials. Now we're going to do some calculations. So here I'm going to give you an analogy. I've done this many times. I want to know how much my baby weighs, but I want to put my baby on the scale because it's weird. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to step on the scale, see how much I weigh, pick up the baby, go on the scale with the baby, and then see how much we weigh together. And so then to find the mass of the baby, I am going to subtract the weight of us together minus the weight of me. So we're doing something similar in this case. Right here, I have recorded the mass of the graduated cylinder with the water, because in order to find the mass of the water, I would just pour it on the balance. That does not work, right? It's just going to spill off. Okay, but here I have the mass of the empty graduated cylinder. Okay, so to find the mass of a quarter of the volume of the water, I'm going to take whatever this total was minus whatever this total was, because this is the graduated cylinder plus the water, and this is just the graduated cylinder. So when I do this number minus this number, I get just the water. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. This is the graduated cylinder with the half volume of water, and this is the empty one. So I'm going to do this number minus this number, and that will tell me the mass of the half volume of water. Again, if you're absent and recovering minutes, then you need to use my numbers to fill out this table. Okay, now you're going to share the data. So you're going to take your mass. So right here, for example, if I was group 1, this is my quarter volume of water. What was the mass? And what was the volume? Right here, what was the half volume? What was the mass? And what was the volume? Okay. If I'm group 2, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm recording. I don't want to know anything about the graduated cylinder. Right now, we're focused on the water. So I want to know the mass of a quarter of the volume of water and the volume, the mass and the volume. Okay. This should be in a number that has, after the decimal, 2 digits because you recorded it from the balance. This should have 1 digit after the decimal because you estimated. Okay. Then all of this data is going to get plotted here on this graph once we have compiled all of our class data. Now we're going to calculate the density. So remember how group 1 had a mass and a volume for a quarter? So you're going to do mass divided by volume equals density and record this here. Mass divided by volume is density. So we're going to record all of these densities and then average them. And then you have just a few analysis questions to answer. And then you're going to be submitting your labs. Each lab group should submit their labs together, and one gets graded. You all get the same grade, so make sure you are all completing it. Okay, I hope that helps.